Hello, what's going on everyone? And in this video, I want us to take a look at how to successfully launch a cryptocurrency token. And I want us to take a look at that starting from an airdrop, because these days people are actually trying to launch tokens just starting with that of the airdrop. Okay, it could be that you build a Telegram mini app on Telegram, or maybe you have an independent app where people actually mine or mint your token, and then after a while you may possibly actually distribute or airdrop some of your free tokens to them, and then you can actually move to the launching phase from that particular angle. So whichever platform you're using, whether you're using a mini app to airdrop your token or you are using something like an independent app, let us just begin by taking a look at what an airdrop is first of all, and from there we can actually move to taking a look at how to actually launch a token. And I'm going to actually take you step by step on how you can actually launch a cryptocurrency token. You're going to see the things that you need to do to be able to successfully launch a token in this guide. Now, first of all, what is an airdrop? An airdrop is a method that is used to distribute free cryptocurrency tokens to a large number of wallet holders, and it's often a marketing strategy that is actually used by new or existing projects to create awareness and grow their community. And afterward, they're actually going to reward their loyal users. You see, the purpose of this airdrop is to primarily help to promote a token, generate excitement, or even reward early adopters. Maybe by distributing tokens for free, the project can actually increase the number of holders and the overall visibility of the token if you go through airdrop. Okay, and the process is actually pretty straightforward. So in an airdrop, tokens are actually sent to users' wallet either randomly or based on a specific criteria. An example could be holding a certain cryptocurrency or completing certain tasks like signing up, following the projects or social media, and a number of things like that. And which I know that you're actually really familiar with that, all right? So if you've been mining cryptocurrencies, you know what I'm actually talking about right now. So let us also briefly talk about token launch. Okay, some people call this tokenization, okay, but I'm going to just refer to that as token launch. And when we talk about token launch, we are basically referring to the process of creating a new cryptocurrency token from scratch, which include defining its purpose, writing a smart contract, deploying it on a blockchain, and then making it available for trading or use. And what is actually the purpose of this? You see, the goal of a token launch is to introduce a new token to the market, whether for use in decentralized applications like that, as a governance token, or for trading and then investment. All right, so the process of doing this is pretty straightforward. This actually involves technical steps like smart contract development, blockchain deployment, listing on exchanges, and legal compliance. And we're going to take a look at that. We're going to take a look at this right now, step by step, without wasting much time. So take a look at token launch in full right now. So launching a cryptocurrency token from scratch requires a careful planning, technical execution, and compliance with legal regulations. Here is a step-by-step guide to help you successfully create and launch your cryptocurrency tokens. Number one, define the purpose of your token. And in defining the purpose of your token, there are two key points that I want to mention right here. The first thing is token utility. So under token utility, you decide whether your token will serve as a utility token used for accessing a service or a platform, or as a security token representing ownership or investment. So the second thing that we want to take a look at is actually the use case. Okay, you want to clearly define the problem your token actually solves. Will it be used in a decentralized application like that for transactions in a specific ecosystem, or as a governance token? You need to be clear about this and then define that. Okay, so now the next thing we want to move on to is to choose a blockchain platform. So the choice of blockchain is actually critical for security, scalability, and community support. Popular blockchains actually include a few of the following that I'm going to mention. So let's start with the first one. So the first one I want to take a look at right here is actually called Ethereum, which is also called the ERC20. And this is one of the most popular platforms for token creation. Ethereum supports smart contracts and it has a vast developer ecosystem. So if you want to choose that of the Ethereum, it's actually a good choice if you want to do that, right? So that's just the first one that is actually in my list right here, Ethereum, which is ERC20. So we do have another one right here, which is actually called a Binance Smart Chain, called the BEP20, and this This particular one actually offers a lower transaction fees, and then it has a faster blockchain times compared to that of the Ethereum. Okay, so if you want to choose that, it's also a good alternative. And after that, we'll have another one that is actually called a Solana. So Solana is actually known for high throughput and then scalability. So if you want to use something like Solana, if you are launching your token and you want to launch that on Solana, that's just pretty nice. So it's a good choice to use, and it has a high throughput and that of the scalability. And another one that is also in my list right here is actually called a Polygon. And this Polygon is a layer 2 solution for Ethereum, but it actually has a lower transaction fees. Okay, so it has lower transaction fee. So that of the Ethereum actually has a very high transaction fee, but I think that the Polygon actually helps in that situation. So if you want to launch your token on that of the Polygon, that's probably a good choice. And we also have other ones like something like Avalanche, we have a Cardano, we have Polkadot, we have Ton. So we do have a lot of other blockchain platforms that you can actually use if you want to use them. You can go for Ton, you can go for Sui, and the number of other ones that are actually available out there. All right. So the next thing I want us to take a look at right now is going to be how to create a smart contract. And this is probably the step 3, right? So when we talk about creating the smart contract, and you will need to actually write the code that actually defines your token. And this is often done by that of the developers. Okay, so if you're a developer, this should be an easy thing for you to do. And if you're not a developer, this still doesn't actually make you give up on creating your token. Okay, so you can hire a developer that can actually do this for you. Okay, so you will need to actually write the code that actually defines your token. And in writing the code, this is actually going to include the tokens supply, the decimals, and the transfer rules, and even other functionalities and the key parameters under this particular point right here, this particular step called to create the smart contract. We want to go ahead and then go through some key parameters that are actually needed right here. So the first one is the name, which is the name of the token. An example is Ethereum. Ethereum actually is a name for Ethereum, and you want to go ahead and then choose your own name right here. And of course, you wouldn't actually use that of the Ethereum because our Ethereum is actually already taken. Okay, so that's the first parameter you want to consider right there. So you want to name it. So if you want to name your own something like let's say something like CKC or something like a code kinder, and you can actually go ahead and then name that. Okay, so just make sure that you choose a name that isn't actually going to contradict with other name that is already in existence. That is just what that is right now. So the next one is, the next parameter right here is the symbol. And once we're talking about the symbol, we are really referring to the abbreviation. So that of the Ethereum has ETH, right? That's what Ethereum use. So for instance, if you are going to use something like code kinder, you may decide to use something like CKC or whatever you want to use. Okay, so depending on the name you want to choose in your own token generation, you can try to bring out something like an abbreviation for your name. Okay, so that's just called a symbol when we talk about a blockchain contract. All right, so after that, the next parameter we want to take a look at is actually the total supply. So how many tokens will exist? That's the question you need to answer. So how many tokens are you actually supplying into that particular blockchain? And once you get the answer right, you want to make sure that you put that down right there. All right, so the next one is actually called the decimals. That's the next parameter right here. When we talk about the decimals right here, we are referring to the smallest units of the token that is actually going to be tradable. An example is that of the Ethereum has 18 decimals. All right, so it has 18 decimal. So if you do something like 0.00000.1, so it has something like 18 decimals that is actually tradable. So that is just that. So you have to also decide your own decimal point right here and then move on with that. So the next thing I want to look at is actually, probably this is actually the last parameter under the creation of your smart contract, and that is actually called the minting. All right, so you want to be able to answer this question: will you have a fixed supply, or can you mint new tokens over time? So that is just what that minting is actually talking about. So if you want to have a fixed token supply, you can go ahead and then decide that. And if you want to be able to mint more tokens as time goes on, it's also something that you can actually decide under this creation of the smart contract. All right, so, and do not actually overthink yourself with this particular part, right? So most tokens actually follow their platforms. Okay, so if you are going to follow something like BEP20, which is Binance smart chain contract, you can actually adapt their smart contracts. Okay, if you adapt that, you can inherit their smart contract flow. All right, so people that are actually going to use something like Ethereum can also adapt their flow. All right. So let me show you an example code on how to actually create this smart contract in that of the Solidity. Okay. So the picture in this video is how you can actually create such a token. Okay. So this one is actually following that of the Ethereum ERC20 right here. This is the smart contract in that of the Solidity right here. So take a look at that, and you can actually use a open Zipline smart contract libraries to actually implement common functionalities like token transfers, ownership, and even access control. All right, so that's just that. So we want to move on to the next step. So this is going to be the step 4. So step 4 is going to be to test your token on a testnet. So before deploying your token on the mainnet, it is actually crucial to test it thoroughly. Use testnets like that of the Ethereum testnet, and under Ethereum you can have something like a Ringkebi, Ropsten, and then even Goeli to be able to do the testing. Okay, and if you want to use something like Binance Smart Chain testnet, is also really available, so you can use that for the testing of their PEP20 tokens. And if you are using Solana, you can use something like Solana DevNet for testing Solana based tokens. All right. So that's just the 3 things that I can actually outline to you right now. And you can actually deploy the token contract to the testnet, verify the token transfers, and then check interactions with wallets. That's it. And if it works, then you move on to step 5. So the next step is actually to audit the smart contract. So under auditing of the smart contract, we all know that security is actually paramount. A bug in the smart contract could actually lead to a significant losses, and it's highly recommended to have your contract audited by a professional smart contract auditing service, such as we can use something like Sortic to be able to audit our smart contract. We also have another one which I've already mentioned called the OpenZipline audit, and we also have something like a QuantStamp to also audit. And this particular QuantStamp audit ensures there are no vulnerabilities like reentrancy attacks, overflow issues, and logic bugs. So if you've passed this particular step and everything is actually working just fine on the testnet, the next thing is to actually go ahead and then try to deploy the token to your mainnet. And that's actually your step 6. Okay, so step 6 is going to be to deploy the token on the mainnet. So once everything is tested and audited, deploy the token to the mainnet. You will need gas fee in the respective cryptocurrency. An example could be Ethereum for people that are actually going to be building on top of that of Ethereum, and you are going to actually need a gas fee to be able to deploy the contract right here. I want to give you an example right here. So I want to give you an example for the deployment right here. For people that are going to be using something like Ethereum, you can actually deploy using something like Remix IDE, or through something like command line tool like that of the Truffle or that of the Hard Hat. All right, you can actually use that. And another one, if you're building on top of that of the Binance Smart Chain, you can use a process that is similar but with a lower fees. All right, so remember that Ethereum has a high cost in their development, but that of the Binance Smart Chain has a lower development fees using that of the Binance Smart Chain, or even some other ones like that of the Ton. So the choice is actually up to you guys. If you do this step correctly and then everything works fine, the next thing you want to do is to take a look at the step 7, which is actually about liquidity and listing. Under this liquidity and listing, we're going to take a look at 2 things in here. Is liquidity on decentralized exchanges. And to make your token tradable, you will need to provide liquidity on decentralized exchanges like Uniswap, PancakeSwap, or SushiSwap. You will pay your tokens with a popular asset, and in this scenario, you can pay it with something like a ETH, that is Ethereum, BNB, that's the Binance, and we also have something like USDT, we have BTC, we have Tone. You can just basically go ahead and then pay your tokens right here with or any of the existing cryptocurrency token out there that you want your token to actually be tradable with them. So that's just what this liquidity on decentralized exchanges is actually referring to. Okay, so you won't be able to make your token tradable. You can go ahead and then bind it with that of the ETH, BNB, USDT, BTC, any other one that you want to use. After that, the next thing you want to take a look at under liquidity and listing is called a centralized exchange listing. And once we're talking about centralized exchange listing on centralized exchanges, example Binance, Bybit, Coinbase, KuCoin, most of these exchanges, they require meeting a certain standard and usually a listing fee. Okay, so bear this in your mind that you are going to be paying a listing fee for all these centralized exchanges for you to be able to list on their platform. And this actually comes basically after building a strong community and liquidity. And that's where your airdrop that you built, the community that you were able to build during the time you were doing your airdrop, is actually going to help you. Okay, because you need to meet a certain criteria. They're going to require you to have had a certain number of followers before they can actually allow you to launch on their platform. So once you have gotten this step out of the way, we want to move on to the next step, and that is step 8. Okay, and this particular step is actually called a marketing and community building. And I want you to bear in mind that success depends on the community. Your success in your tokenization or your token launch depends on your community. And key steps that are actually needed for you to be able to have a viable marketing and community building right here is: number one, you need to have a website and also something like a white paper. And what I mean by that is that you need to create a professional website, and that website is actually going to have a detailed white paper explaining your tokens and purpose, tokenomics, the roadmap, and the technical details. All right, that is just the first thing you want to have in there. And the next thing under this marketing and community building is actually the social media. So you need to build a presence on the platforms like Twitter or X. You also need to build a nice presence on Reddit, Telegram, or just right about any other platform. It could be Facebook. It could be something like Instagram. You should be able to always engage with your followers. All right. So that is just that on that particular one. The next thing is actually called a bounty campaign and airdrop. And under this bounty campaign and airdrop, you want to distribute a small amount of token to your early adopters to create a buzz. Okay. And that's just basically what you want to do to be able to have an engaged social media platform. And after that, the next one we want to take a look at is called a partnership. And you want to collaborate with projects or influencers to grow awareness. So you collaborate with projects that are already in existence in that particular niche where you are, or you need to create partnership with influencers to actually grow awareness. You want them to be able to gain loyalty in your airdrop or in your token. You want to have good relationship or good rapport with influencers and some projects in that particular category. So that is just that on that line. And if you got this particular part right, which is marketing and community building, the next thing we want to move on to is step 9, which is actually called a tokenomics and governance. So when we talk about tokenomics, we are basically talking about the tokens economics. Okay, the tokens economic model. That's what we mean by tokenomics. So right here, the first thing you want to do under tokenomics and governance is that you want to specify your token allocation. So under this token allocation, you need to decide how your token will be distributed. How many percentage is actually going to go for that of the team? How many is actually going to be going for that of the developers, the public sales people, and even the people that worked on that of your airdrop? Okay, so how many are you actually distributing to your early adopters right here? That's what token allocation is actually talking about right here. You need to make that clear enough. Okay, that's your tokenomics and your governance. And after that, we have another one under tokenomics and that of the governance, and that is the incentives. So consider reward mechanism, staking, or yield farming to incentivize token holders. All right, so you want to do this to just basically incentivize them and make them feel encouraged to continue with the project. And after that, we are going to take a look at governance. So if your token is used for governance, create a system where token holders can vote on decisions, and you can use a tool like DAO framework to actually do this. So that is just that. So if you got your tokenomics and then the governance correct, you want to move on to the next step, and that is actually going to be step 10, and this is going to be compliance with legal and regulatory standards. So depending on your jurisdiction or where you are living, you may need to comply with local and international regulations. And under this regulation, we want to take a look at 3 things. And the first one is going to be your KYC/AML. And this KYC simply means know your customer, and AML simply refers to anti-money laundering. And under this particular KYC/AML, if your token sale involves fundraising, you may need to actually implement know your customer, that's your KYC, and then anti-money laundering procedures. And that is just that on that line. So the next thing I want to take a look at under compliance with legal and regulatory standard is the security laws. You need to consult with a legal expert to ensure your token doesn't actually classify as a security unless it's intended to be. All right. And finally, under this, compliance with legal and regulatory standard is for us to take a look at licenses. So in some regions, you may need license to actually operate. So you need to check with your region and find out if you need a license to be able to operate. That is just that. So we're moving on to the next thing in here, which is step 11. And this is actually called initial coin offering, ICO, or you can call this launch. All right. So you can actually call this a launch. And so if you are actually raising funds under this initial coin offering, which is ICO, you may want to consider launching the following. Number one, initial coin offering, which is the ICO, and this is just basically we're talking about crowd sale of your tokens right here. And the next one is actually initial exchange offering, IEO, right there, and this is talking about the token sale conduct through an exchange. And the next one is the initial DES, which is decentralized the offering ID, which is actually decentralized. And under this place, we're just talking about the token sale on decentralized platforms. All right. So you need to ensure you comply with regulations and then provide full transparency during your token sale. And if you have actually gotten that part right, and the next step right here is actually the continuous development and then update. And that's just basically heading to the final thing that you need to do with your token launch. And talking about this continuous development and then launching is just the beginning. You need to continue to engage the community, provide regular updates, and then improve the ecosystem around your token. You need to basically keep the token's utility and ecosystem evolving. All right. So that is just that, guys. And by just following these steps that I've actually outlined to you guys, you can create, deploy, and successfully launch a cryptocurrency token. So if you have any questions, feel free to go to the comment section and then drop your question right there. All right. So if you want to subscribe, it's completely up to you. And if not, that's just fine. All I want is for you to make sure that you get something out of this video. And thanks for watching, guys. I think maybe I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye for now.